Many times we want that me time. It's a new term, I think, nowadays, the last couple of years. The me time is all about wanting to be by yourself, wanting to be alone, time when you want to introspect, analyze, time when you just want to do things for yourself. And I think that it's nice to sometimes want to be alone. And there are times when you are left alone, and then you feel the loneliness setting in. So these are things we need to ponder on. And there's this beautiful narrative again written by Anastasia. To be or not to be alone. Let's read it and see what she has in store for us. Leave me alone. I've heard this phrase so often and even used it myself when I feel overwhelmed. After all, I'm human. And there are times I want nothing more than to be left alone. Sometimes people annoy me. The list of people includes my family, friends, and colleagues. I've always thought that solitude is the only way to avoid people, being isolated until I feel ready to face them again. For the better part of this year and last year, I have been isolated from people. The only difference is that I, along with most of you, was forced into isolation. I didn't isolate myself by choice. It is during this time that I ask myself a few pertinent questions. Am I meant to be alone? Is spending time alone the best solution when I'm faced with challenging circumstances or people? Do I really need people? If you want to know the answers I got, you will have to read on. First of all, there's a famous biblical story that can give us a deeper insight into these questions. Over 2,000 years ago, the king of Israel chose a foreigner to be his wife, a move that would be diplomatic relations. His wife brought in her own cultural influence and traditions. While doing so, she forced the people of Israel to adapt to her traditions. When one of the wisest men in the land confronted her and told her that she was wrong in forcing people to change, she wanted the wise man killed. So she sent an army of soldiers to get rid of them. The wise man ran at lightning speed, fleeing for his life. He saw a cave on the way and took shelter there. He hadn't done anything wrong, only confronted the queen about what she was doing. He was old, tired, sick, and isolated from the outside world. And here he was afraid for his life. It was there that he wondered whether his life was worth living or not. He wanted to die, but then he realized that he was the only righteous man left in the land. And if he died, every person in the land would turn to unrighteous living. It was in the cave that he shut out the madness of the outside world and looked within himself. In isolation, he realized that he wanted to live, and so he garnered enough courage to face the queen once again. It was in that isolation that he saw hope at the end of the tunnel. Cave, if you will. It was in solitude that he understood that he needed people and his people needed him. This wise man, as you may have guessed by now, was the prophet Elijah. Elijah's story speaks to me on so many levels. There have been days, months, and years that I wished moments away. I'd been called out and punished when I stood up for what I believed was right. I hadn't done anything wrong, but there were times that I have felt scorned by those around me. And it was in those moments that I longed to be isolated. In the life of the carpenter from Nazareth, we see him withdrawing from people, even his family and friends. He fed the hungry and went to a solitary place. He healed crowds of people and then left. He calmed the storm and withdrew from there. Just moments before his death, he chose to be alone with those 3 close friends some distance away. Jesus' withdrawal was not based on circumstance. Unlike Elijah, he needed those few moments of solitude to contemplate on his mission here on earth. The examples of both Jesus and Elijah describe to us the approach the 2 different people had towards the same situation. Elijah is forced into isolation, like most of us have, due to the pandemic. It drove him crazy for a while until he learned to live with it. Whereas Jesus chose to be isolated so that he could figure out what he had done so far and what he was going to do next. Your approach can be like that of Jesus or like that of Elijah. But that doesn't answer the question that I posed, does it? The real answer is we need people. Even if they deride us, drive us crazy, or simply can't leave us alone. We need people. We are created for community. Elijah was, and Jesus was. You and I are. We are here to help each other out. We are here to make a difference. And that can happen if we lock ourselves up every time life throws something different at us. So the next time you think of going into isolation, bring to mind your purpose here in life. What are you called for? A life to be lived in isolation, or a life lived in service of those around you? You must make a choice that you won't ever regret. Choices.
And loneliness. I don't know whether you can call it loneliness. The idea is sometimes, yes, I've got to be alone if I've got to be able to put my thoughts together.
So that is not loneliness. That's the question I posed earlier too. I mean, to be alone and being alone is very different from feeling alone. And that brings in the feeling of loneliness. Now, loneliness can kill, but being alone for whatever purpose is again different.
I think there is a positive slant to choosing to be alone if I know the reason why I want to be alone.
Absolutely. Like she says, the purpose that you're here for in life. So it needs a lot of analysis and introspection, your father.
Yeah. I think, I was calling to mind the many times in the gospel when Jesus, before he gets into a big enterprise, will always go aside alone to pray, they say.
Yes.
And then comes out into the ministry. He doesn't go out alone and then fade away.
Because he knew his purpose, no?
Yes.
He knew that he belonged to the people and that he had to do something for them.
Correct.
They were needy. So I guess that isolation that he chose to be was the introspection. Giving him strength, making him understand how he should be. How could he help the needy. I guess that was what the choice was all about.
That I believe is what's not happening today. We are afraid of wanting to be alone, to be able to say, to plan our next step of service, to plan our next endeavor in society or in life.
Yes, I guess that deep inset insecurity. We are all living with a lot of fear of any little thing and every little thing. And that's not permitting us to be who we should be.
Yeah. Now that's why this craving for peers.
Yes, yes.
So that's why in the loneliness, I'll pick up a mobile and call my friend or text my friend or do something because I need that connection. If not physically, at least virtually, I need that connection. But that doesn't allow me to think for myself.
Absolutely. It clutters the mind. Since we are in training and we are with the youth of today, I'm not a prude, but I think there is a lot of extreme that is happening.
Yeah.
Too much of alcohol and too much of drugs and, let's be honest, too much of promiscuity.
Yeah.
There is no line of demarcation or value for anything that you're doing in life, and that clutters the thought. Yeah. And the more you're into it, the more the need for you to be there, because then you're afraid of loneliness.
And exactly what you said, alcohol, promiscuity, drugs, all celebrated in the company of peers.
That's it. That's what I said, the youth of today.
Yeah, so it means that it's not bad, it's bad enough that I want to be alone. Now I want to irrigate that loneliness with drugs, with alcohol.
Absolutely. That's the loneliness that sets in the fear and the insecurity. And then you want people, you become codependent, and that is really very detrimental for them. So it's nice to be alone, enjoy your solitude. You can use it constructively as to how you can evolve, read wonderful books, learn something during that me time, as they call it. Yeah.
But it's not easily undertaken because, like I said, at this age, this attraction to having peers around me, is what doesn't give them the ability to value this me time. Value it as in, something in which I can learn something in which I can reflect on something in which I can plan on something.
What I feel is, especially since we are called the Oxford of the East, you have a lot of these kids leaving their homes and coming here, and then they all of a sudden have so much of freedom and no one to guide them. I think that also could be one of the reasons why they steer away from the norms that will, help them to even grow, and evolve into better individuals.
Yeah.
I guess that must also be a deterrent.
No one to guide them, and what I experience more and more since I've come back to the city after so many years, is that they don't, at least on the face of it, don't want this guidance.
It's freedom.
It's freedom.
Let me enjoy my freedom.
Yeah, which means, I'm managing my own life.
Yes.
See, like you said earlier, narcissism is setting in.
Largely, and people don't realize this actually.
And realize
there's a survey that has been done.
Yeah, the detrimental aspect.
Yes, and it's a huge survey that has been done, which proves that people are steering towards a mental disorder that is not very healthy. Yeah.
I think if we in already in high schools and junior colleges and colleges can stress on this aspect, we will be helping the next generation to get back on track.
Yes, teachers have to come with a more compassionate heart. Teachers have to understand this aspect of life because the school becomes your second home. The child spends 8 to 9 hours of his or her 24 hours at school, and the teachers then are substituting for a parent. And this is where, the nurturing can really take place. It's a spiritual awakening that's happening when she talks about the pandemic and where people have had to be alone. It was a forced aloneness where people got depressed, they killed themselves. There were so many issues that happened. But if one is made to be inherently strong from their childhood, they would be able to face these kinds of circumstances.
That's true. Yeah. But also, it has been proved, the child sees the teacher's face for a longer duration in the course of a day than it sees its own parents.
Absolutely.
A child goes home and goes to sleep, and then the parent comes back from work or from wherever.
Yeah.
He might just
So the
see
teacher is the next parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, almost the first parent.
Yes. So, Father, yes, you run the Don Bosco School over here. Let's see what we can do to steer away and to bring in that aspect of wanting to be alone because you want to evolve as a better individual to help yourself and help the others who are in need.
Thank you.